So hello and welcome to another episode of Steven's Forward. As you can see, I'm out and about the B Class today, and that's because I'm filming a buyer's guide for the B Class. I've had this car now for nearly 18 months. I've done around 16,000 miles in it. So I think I've got to know this car quite well. And if there's anyone out there that's potentially looking at buying this car, hopefully we'll be able to take away a little bit of advice from someone that actually owns this type of car. So this is my 2012 B Class. It is a B180 CDI Sport, so it's a 1.8 litre diesel engine. This particular one is the Sport model. You get little things like the xenon headlights, you get the headlight washers. The front bumper on this car is completely different to the other model they do, which is a lower spec model, which is the Sport model. You get slightly bigger wheels, and the wheels on this particular car, apart from being slightly curved, which wasn't done by me, I'd like to point that out, it's done with the previous owner. These are the optional extra alloys, the 17-inch alloys, the Sport line I think they're called, and they're finished in this nice sort of metallic silver colour. The other wheels are five spoke, but they're twin spokes, so you've got a little spoke just in the middle here, you've got a gap, so you get twin spoke. And again, I think those are 17-inch alloys as well, and they're a diamond cut finish. I think they're black finish then with like a sort of silver front to them. The other option that this car has is the mirror pack. So basically I think you get some like tint on the glass, which again, when you've got cars behind you with headlights on at night, obviously it helps just sort of mask that headlight almost. And the main thing that they do, you park up, you got the car and the mirrors fold in. Not so convenient if you're parking up on the driveway like I do, but it maybe if you do leave your car out on the street, or you've got maybe a tight car park, you have to leave it in. It's quite convenient. You open it up, and then once you open the door, I'll do that again, shall I? Once you open the door, then they come open again. So as you can see around the back of the car, it's a very nice looking car. This particular colour is Cirrus White. It is a solid colour, and it is kind of like a sort of a bit of creaminess. I've seen this colour next to a Polar White, and that's proper like almost an Arctic white, proper white. As this has a slight creaminess to it. So moving around to the back of the car, as you can see with the Sport model, you get a little bit of a spoiler on there, a little bit of a lip over the back window. You also get the different bumper. I'd like to point out this is actually genuine twin exhausts, none of your fake rubbish that they seem to be putting on, a lot of the manufacturing putting on today. So let's go and have a little look inside this car. And as you can see, it comes quite well spec. This being the Sport model, you get the Artico leather seats as standard. If you go for an SE, I think it came as fabric as standard. I know some of the later sort of facelift model I think had leather as standard. Artico leather like this one as standard. Quite a nice little dash. Everything's laid out very nice. So we'll go around to the other side and we'll sit in the driver's seat and I'll point out a few more things in detail. My only sort of gripe with this car, and this really is a bit of a first world problem, is that you do get this lovely white stitching on here, and it's also on the steering wheel as well, and you see the door card, but it's not actually carried over onto the seats, which highly annoys me. I don't know why. In my SLK, that's got red seat belt, red stitching around the door cards, red stitching on the seat and the steering wheel, but that's also carried over, and you got red stitching on the seats. I just think that's slightly missing the trick. Whether they thought it's white and this is a sort of practical everyday car, whether they thought that's not worth doing it on the seats, I don't know. Maybe it's just this particular year model, I don't know. So moving on to the back seats, as you can see, there's a lot of space in here. You can easily get 5 people in there. I've never actually got 5 people in here before, but I've had 4, and there's certainly no one's ever complained about not having enough room. As you can see, back of the seats there, nothing too much to show really. You've just got a couple of little cubby holes here, and quite a useful little 12 volt and a little another cubby hole there. You've also got just the standard sort of size door pockets in there as well. So that is pretty much the back seats, not too much to see. The boot, and you've got a really good sized boot. One of the reasons that I actually went for the B Class was it's actually a slightly bigger car than the A Class. It's a really good size, because if you don't want to go too big to something like a GLC or even a C Class estate, again, this is a really good size. It's smaller, but it's still got a lot of room. I think being slightly taller than other cars as well, certainly more than the C Class or E Class estates. You do Yeah, a little few bits and pieces. I don't know what's in here. Let's have a look. Oh, that's just stuff. Nothing in there. I think there's a little first aid kit in there. That's also my other first aid kit as well, with high-vis stuff in there as well. As you can see, I've got my big umbrella there, which doesn't come with the cart, something I've bought. You also get the little divider. Now, I will mention that little divider, I never have it actually out like this, because what I do find is if you go over a pothole or something, and it's while you're driving, and it's very, very distracting. You hear this great big bang, and it's like, you know, nothing probably going over a pothole. Then you also have to go over, put up with that as well. And then just very quickly, this underneath here, it's just your spare wheel and all your gubbins as well, which hasn't been used in this particular car. So here is the driver's side of the front. As you can see, it's a very nice sort of laid out area. You've also got some quite nice big pockets of the door here. Obviously you've got all your window controls here, and also your wing mirror controls as well. Some seat adjustment controls there as well. You've also got one at the front which pulls it back and forth. Okay, I'm just going to take a sit inside and I'll show you around a few of the controls. Fantastic. So I'll just turn the ignition on for now. As you can see, it's a nice plain and simple dash. It does everything I want it to do. Obviously you've got your rev counter, your oil temperature, obviously got your fuel gauge and your speedo there. You've also got kilometers, you've got your clock, and you've also got your gear selector control there. Now this particular one, that is the gear selector, and this car's a little bit different to other cars. We have two SLKs which have the very traditional gear lever in the middle here. Now this is quite an interesting little cubby hole. As you can see, stores my glasses in nicely, and it's quite a big cubby hole. You can get a lot in there, I think. And basically, if you have a manual, that's where your gear lever goes. Basically, there's a gearbox underneath here somewhere, but because it's controlled by the lever up here, you end up without having to have a gear lever and all the gubbins that go with having gear levers. So you end up with quite a nice deep pocket there, which is a little bit of an advantage if you've got stuff to store as well. So moving around, we've got indicator store, window controls there. You've also got your cruise control lever just down there as well. So that's pretty much it. Light switches are over here. This particular one has automatic lights, so you can also put the manual adjusted on there. It doesn't have front fog lights, it has warning lights instead, which you can turn off, which I have done as well. And you've also got a rear fog light there as well. Now moving on, you have got your media display up here. Now this particular one also has the optional extra Garmin map pilot, which if we put that on, sorry, Becker map pilot, not Garmin. Garmin map pilot's on some of the later models. And this particular one is actually a box. Now you can actually add it into this car, and this one didn't come with it from the factory, but the little box there, that's actually the sat nav unit, so it pulls out and pulls in. Obviously if you want to get one, you can buy one from Mercedes, or you can buy one second hand as well. And it's quite a nice system. I quite like it. I don't think it's quite as good as the Command that I have in my SLK, but then again, the Command is a lot more money to buy and actually to spec into a car. You also get with the Command a slightly bigger screen as well. However, this one does everything you want. You've got CD, you've got radio, which is just FM, AM. You do, however, get Bluetooth as well, which is really useful as well. So not only can you use the telephone in here and make calls and receive calls and all that, and you've also got your controls here as well. You can also play music. So if you have Apple Music like I do, I can just select a playlist and it goes through onto here. I'm not going to show you that because I can't play music because of the copyright reasons. So now you've got your air vents there, not very exciting. You've also got your radio controls here, so that's how you control all your sort of different operations, from radio to disc to your Bluetooth to your nav and all that. You've got mute, system settings, call and accept and decline and whatnot. Skip for CDs, and also change the radio station using those as well. And you've got number controls, which I've never actually used. I never can remember anybody's phone number, that's why I store them in my phone. You've got your eco button there, which is basically eco stop start hazards. You've also got this button here, which is controls the different modes. Now I generally leave the gearbox modes in economy mode, and you'll see on the gear selector bit on the main dash, you can see there's an E on there. You can then have S, which is sport, M for manual, and you do actually have flappy paddle shift just like a sort of F1 racing car, which I'm not not too much of a fan of in this car. It's not the really type of car I want to race around in, to be honest, so that's why I leave it generally in E, which is the eco mode. This particular one has the air conditioning, actually not too much there, temperature, fan, all different fan settings. You've then got in here just another little 12 volt, which again is quite convenient, and you've also got a little bit of storage there. I've already been to that pocket there, which is your gearbox selector. Obviously if you have an auto, you have this cubby hole here. If you have a manual, then you just have a gear selector there, gear lever. Actually a couple of cup holders there. You've also got your little bit of control for the stereo. Again, you can, generally this system, you can pan around just by selecting stuff, pushing the lever up and down. Also there's a back and a cancel button on there. And then finally there's a little cubby hole in here, and you do get a USB in here as well, which as you can see, USB, and you also get a aux socket as well, just 3.5mm aux socket. Probably can't see on that one, to be honest. So on this central display you can use the arrows, which are down here, to control all different things. You can see, you get mileage, temperature gauge on there, you get your range, how many mpg, you do your eco driving display, which isn't very good at the moment, basically because I haven't been driving anywhere, I've literally just started up the car. And then you also get your little trip computer from the stars. The trip computer there, as you can see, I've done 16,000 miles in this car and average 53.2. You also can control, you can scroll over, you can go navi, audio, telephone. You also then got your assistance things, which are ESP, distance warning, which I've turned off, and also the attention assist as well. So we go back to the menu. There we go. If I can remember how to do it, because I don't go anywhere very often. Then you've got service, it tells you about tyre pressures when your next service is due, and you've got some general settings as well. I find personally just leave it onto this little digital speedo, which I find very useful, because when you drive along, really what you need to know is just your speed majority of the time. Now under the bonnet of my B Class is this, a 1796cc, so 1.8 litre naturally aspirated diesel engine. Now this particular engine, I actually quite like it. It's for a diesel, it's quiet. For a 4-cylinder diesel, actually it's very quiet. Sometimes they can be a little bit rattly. And if you go for the slightly larger engines, the 200 CDI and the 220 CDI, you do get actually a bigger engine, which is a 2.1 I believe. And I do find that's an older engine that actually rattles. I know that one is a Mercedes. I'm not too geared up on whether this is actually a Mercedes engine or not. I know it's one that's put in previous models as well, but actually for a 4-cylinder diesel engine, I've rode it a little bit rough, and actually it is actually quite quiet for a 4-cylinder diesel engine. Starting it up on a cold morning is a little bit rattly, but once it gets warmed up, then actually it does quieten down a little bit. And because this particular one has a 7-speed gearbox, you can get a 6-speed manual, or for an optional extra you can get the 7-speed auto, which this car has. Once you get up to 70, put the cruise control on, the car's in 7th gear, and you never actually hear this engine. It's more road noise that you will hear. Now in later model, I think it's about 2014, they did switch over to a 1.5 litre engine, which I have driven. It's alright, it's a bit of a smaller engine, so you do have to rev it up a little bit more. That's one thing I like about this engine, is that you don't actually have to rev it up as much to get the power out of it. I find that actually it's very rare, and when I put your foot down, to actually go sort of over 2,500 revs, for example. So you do get really good fuel economy out of this one. I've had about 67 mpgs on average. Now I'm not stating obviously everyone will get that, because obviously depends on lots of factors. I have found, like during the cold weather recently, when it was -8, I was starting this car the one day, my fuel economy wasn't very good because it was cold. Obviously you have the air conditioning on the summer, you have the heat on the winter, that can affect it. There's all different types of factors that can affect it. But on an average, I've had quite regularly when I go and do about an hour-long drive to see my parents up on the motorway, and I will usually get an average of about 60.1 mpg. So I like to think that's quite good for an engine like this. Tax also is £30 a year, so it's nice and low to tax as well. Obviously if you go for some of the bigger engines, obviously a little bit more to tax. If you go for some of them petrol engines, again you will be getting less fuel economy, and you're also paying slightly more in tax. I like to think this one, as an all-rounder, is actually quite a good little engine. So ultimately, would I recommend someone to actually buy this car and to own this car? Yes, I would. I've had this car for nearly 18 months now, as already mentioned, and I really enjoy it. I actually quite like this car. It does the job of getting me to A to B really comfortably, really well. I've driven to Wales in this car and done like 3-4 hours just sat in the car at any one time. I've been there to Devon, which again is a sort of 3-hour journey, and I've really liked this car. I really, just for getting me from A to B, the least amount of fuss, I really like it. It drives really nice, this car. I think it's a model that's really overlooked in the Mercedes range and actually underestimated. So I did wonder whether it'd be that as nice to drive some of the Mercedes models. And actually, yes, it is. It is still every inch of Mercedes. That's what I always say, to use an old Mercedes slogan and marketing spiel. So if you like the video, make sure you pop a like down below to help me know that you like this video. I want to do maybe more of these buyer's guides. If you've got any questions about this particular B Class, or you've got any questions about B Class in general, if you're looking to buy one, please do let me know in the comments or send me a message. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram as well, so feel free to message me on there or just comment to one of my posts on there. And as ever, subscribe to the channel. Again, I've just gone past 200 subscribers on the channel, which is a sort of big milestone. It doesn't sound that many, but for me, that's quite a big milestone. So thank you very much for everyone who has subscribed and continues to support the channel. So it's goodbye from me, goodbye from the B Class, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.